Okay, thank you. Good evening to members, to officers and to visitors to our Town Centre Revival Committee this evening. There are 9 items on our agenda to get through, including a presentation from our partners at Swan. By way of introduction, this is a remote meeting. This is being streamed live to the Council's YouTube channel. We are not in control of the live comments that are being posted on the Council's YouTube channel, so I do ask for anyone who is posting to do so with consideration for others. We will be recording this as per usual, and I will be asking each member of the Council who is a sitting committee member to vote by recording their vote for, against or abstain verbally, so it can be recorded as a true record. The first agenda item is apologies for absence. There don't appear to be any. We are a full house tonight of councillors. The second item is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare an interest? No one is indicating. Agenda item 3 are the minutes of the meeting of our previous Town Centre Revival Committee, which was held on the 13th of May. Are there any matters arising from the minutes of that meeting? There are no matters, in which case I'll ask members of the committee to unmute themselves and we will take a vote on the minutes as a true record. Councillor Harrison?
For.
Councillor Burton-Sampson?
For.
Councillor Headley?
For.
Councillor Henry?
For.
Councillor Mackenzie?
For.
And I vote in favour. Thank you, members. The minutes are agreed unanimously. Agenda item 4 is a presentation by Swan Housing on the latest regeneration at the Langdon Centre. Jack from Swan is on the call for us this evening, and I'm going to hand over to you, Jack, to present the latest presentation for us on Langdon. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's great to be back presenting at the committee. It's been a while since I presented at the main committee, but I have been updating the Langdon subcommittee as well. So it's great to be back and being able to give you an update around what's going on with the Langdon regeneration scheme. I'm just going to share my screen, which I hope you all be able to see. Is that coming up on screen now? Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. So yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jack Killian. I'm the Senior Development Manager on the Langdon Place project for Swan. Again, I'll just give you a bit of a run through about where we are on site at the moment, bring you up to speed with some of the matters that we regularly talk about in terms of progress on site, legal negotiations, and what the next steps are for the project. So again, you can see on screen, this is a CGI that we regularly present, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with this image. It shows what the completed scheme will look like once we've finished. You can see the new NHS centre, the new Lidl, the new High Street. Obviously the scheme is designed around the new homes on site, as well as the new office for Swan. So that gives you a bit of a context. And as I always say when I present this image, the reason I love this image so much is the way that you can really see that the way that the work that Swan is trying to do here is trying to knit in this new Langdon Place with the existing community. And I think we're trying to work really hard, you know, with the council, with councillors and local residents to make sure that we just a reminder for members who just to refamiliarise themselves with what we're trying to do here. It's the retail-led regeneration of the old Langdon shopping centre. We've got 25,000 square foot of retail space. We're delivering a new health centre in partnership with the NHS, a new Lidl food store, a new Swan regional office, public realm, and 224 homes, and also the relocation of the existing Langdon War Memorial. Again, you can see the phasing plan on screen, and we'll come back to that when we see some images of the progress on site. Just to give you an update on sort of individual bits around the scheme, you know, we're really proud that we're bringing Swan's new office to Langdon. It's replacing our existing Billericay office. We're building the scheme. We're building the new office so that it can cater for up for 150 staff moving from Billericay to Langdon and it will serve as Swan's hub in the Essex region. We've been doing a lot of consultation with staff. They're getting really excited about the move to Laindon and what being part of the Laindon Place regeneration will offer them. And we hope that to be occupied in that office by autumn 2021. That has been a shift as a result of delays due to COVID-19, but I'll sort of give an update on programme and what COVID-19 has done for the regeneration programme. Again, another really exciting part of the Laindon Place project, and what we're trying to do here is deliver a new NHS centre to replace that existing Laindon Health Centre. Now we are encountering some delays as to delivering this as a result of COVID-19 and some other internal NHS factors, and I think that's work is now likely to commence on that in early 2021, where we had hoped it would start sort of summer this year. We seem to have had a bit of a breakthrough in terms of some NHS bits recently. Basildon and Brentwood CCG has been working hard to source someone to occupy the head lease for the new building. They've come up with they're working with a CIC called Provide, who are now taking the head lease, and Provide are working really hard now with the GPs from the existing Laindon Health Centre to agree the leases, agree how much space they're going to take up in the new building, and get them ready so that their lease is signed and work can start on site. But you know, I would like to point out to members that we are still having to make sure that the internal business case is passed at the NHS. That's not happened so far, and based on where we are at the moment, if we're not able to start work on this new NHS site in early 2021, that will have a negative effect on Swan's programme and the regeneration timeline. New public realm and memorial garden. This is something that, you know, it's great for us to be delivering, and I think it's something that the community are really excited about, particularly trying to always say give the respect to the Laindon War Memorial that it does really deserve. Essex Highways are due to approve the highways works in August, so we are very nearly there on that, and then we can get into a position where we can start programming when those highway works are going to start and when we can start on some of these public realm bits. I think that would be great once that's finally delivered. And the key thing that I think residents are always keen for us to talk about is obviously the new retail. It is, you know, the old Laindon Shopping Centre is gone. We've got the temporary retail, but you know, it's going to be really important that we deliver some of this new retail space. The expressions of, I think I've mentioned this to the committee in the past, that the expressions of interest we've had have really surprised us. We've had, I think we're up to nearly 100 retailers and businesses who've expressed an interest in coming to Laindon Place, which is great for us. We're looking to let some of the first units formally by the end of this year, and then we can work on our phase 2 retail lets in the autumn and really start preparing the strategy for getting the right tenants. And I think at Swan, you know, we're really proud of the way that we've consulted with residents throughout, the way we keep residents informed and sort of bring residents on this journey. And I think one of the ways that we're going to try and continue doing that is really, once we've got an idea of the people that are interested in coming into these retail units, to really try and find the way that residents can be consulted on this and sort of give their opinions on what retail mix they would like to see, because I think that's really important. It's going to be really important for the long-term sustainability of the High Street and of the Laindon Place project as a whole. Just to bring you up to speed on some of the site construction progress. Now, this is the landmark site. Some of you might be familiar with this site. It was part of the old Five Links site, so it's one of the last bits of the Five Links estate that is being regenerated, but it's sort of been brought into the Laindon project, and we're really close to handing these units over. So the landmark site is 14 shared ownership units, 14 shared ownership houses, and we're due to hand over those to buyers in probably September time, I think, is what we're looking at. So, but we're sort of really high quality homes. We've had a lot of demand for these shared ownership units. They've seemed to be really popular, and we're really pleased with the work that's gone on here, and really excited about those first residents that are going to be moving into these units. So we hope to, as I say, hope to have them moved in by September. The image you can see on screen now is a sort of a drone image that's been taken by our construction team, and you can really see the scale of the construction site there. On the right hand side of the screen, you can see the phase 1B. So that is the site that we've been working on since sort of early 2019. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the Swan office that's taking effect, and then there's the concrete cores that are coming out the ground. And as you sort of move over to the left-hand side of the screen, the podium is really starting to take shape there now. But I think that gives you a sense of the scale of the site and the scale of the site that we're dealing with, and the sheer amount of work that's going into this. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will be able to see the sort of, with a sort of muddy area, should I say, that's the site of the new Lidl store, and I'll come on to that in a little while. And just taking another photo of the site there, you can see that the office coming out of the ground, that's topped out. We'll wait, they were doing early in the off now, the concrete cores coming up. But yeah, there's some real good progress being made on site. But as I said earlier, unfortunately, we have experienced some delays due to COVID-19, and that has affected our programme. Swan took a decision that not many others did take, but did decide to close the site and all of our sites that we do have across East London and Essex, and in the middle of March, shut down the site and reopened again in sort of the second week of June. So we sort of lost about 3 months there. And obviously we opened the site then, but it's taken us a while to get the site back up and running, to try and re-engage with subcontractors, get them back on site. So we're probably about 3.5, 4 months behind where we'd really want to be. But the site manager has told me that we are now back to sort of full capacity on working on site, which is great, and we can really try and get forward and deliver this project. It has been mentioned in the Lane subcommittee before, but we are making a change to the modular system. Swan's obviously proud that we've got our modular housing factory in Basildon using cross-laminated timber, a very sustainable product. But as a result of the changes in building regulations that have come about, mortgage lenders are very wary of the use of CLT at height. As I say, as a result of these building regulation changes. So we are looking at the project now of switching from a cross-laminated timber product to a steel product, and still using modular, still using our factory in Basildon, but rather than using timber, we're using steel, which is the design work is underway for, and as you see on the screen there, we're expecting the first modules to arrive on site prior to Christmas. So that's really positive, and I think that'll be a big moment once we get some of these first modules to arrive. As I said earlier, the works are starting to prepare the new Lidl site. You may have seen in the Basildon Echo and some of the work and press stuff that Swan released that we have exchanged contracts with Lidl. So we're getting the site works prepared for them now, and we're expecting their contractors on site early next year with an autumn 2021 opening for that new store. We're also working with Homes England to increase the number of shared ownership units on site. We've looked at some of the work that's ongoing. And it seems that there's some very good, there's a lot of demand that's been going on for there's been a lot of demand for the shared ownership units up Landmark, and that's been really positively received, and we're looking at how we can increase those shared ownership units. As I said as well, highways work's expected to start, and we're also going to be doing some diversion works on the utilities across the site. Post office. When the post office that was previously at the Lane Shopping Centre, we've been working with them to try and find a way that we can temporarily house them throughout the regeneration. Unfortunately, we've not been able to come to an agreement with them yet. They've stopped work on their transactions. They were looking to move into the library. We're working very closely with Essex County Council and Essex Libraries to put the post office in there, which we felt would provide a really good service. I think probably even as a result of COVID, we've probably seen the importance of these local services to many people in the community. And I think we still need to try and work closely with the post office to do that. And I think any support that the council might be able to give on that would be really appreciated, and I think would be of great benefit to people in Leyden. And as well as that, as a result of obviously some of these programme issues, the temporary retail that is a great success story on the screen has been on the project has been extended until summer 2021. So they'll be staying in their place. He can open these key pharmacy and optician services until they're ready to move into their permanent units in 2020, in the summer of 2021. So again, as a result of COVID and some of these changes that we've had to make to the modular system, the programme is extended out a little bit. We're expecting the first phase of retail units to be fitted out and sort of ready in summer 2021, with the second phase in summer 2022, a year later. The first phase of the scheme in terms of the residential shared ownership blocks, A, C and D, should be in autumn 2021, with the second phase of residential flats in spring 2022. And you can see there in terms of blocks K, L, M and N, that's sort of kicking out now to the start of 2023. But as I say, particularly on Block M, which is the site of the existing Lane Health Centre. If we're not able to engage the NHS and agree these deals with the NHS and get that started on site in early 2021, there's a risk to the regeneration programme. As I say, the new Lidl in autumn 2021, new Swan office in autumn 2021. And as I say, we're hoping that if the NHS can start in January 2021, they will be ready and they'll have their new NHS centre by the spring of 2022. So yeah, so as I say, we're still moving forward. It's unfortunate the delays that we've had on site, but as I say, the site is working up to full capacity, and we're really trying to make up for some lost time and really get this project delivered, which I know is what everyone wants to see. One of the things I always like to talk about is the ongoing community engagement. As I say, we're really proud of the consultation work that we've done, the way that we've engaged the community and kept them up to date. You know, I'm sure many of you are familiar with some of the stuff that we do, and you know, one of the ones we always love doing is the Community Remembrance Day. I think we've really tried to work hard with the community to get to work with them. You know, with the way that the War Memorial has been temporarily relocated, the way we want to try and put on some small food and drink for people. You know, it seems to be very much appreciated by the community, and obviously with, you know, bearing in mind government guidance and see what it's saying in November this year. Again, that's something we'd love to host, and again this year on Remembrance Sunday. Just wanted to talk about what we're doing. We've been working with James Hornsby School. We've done a sort of a hoarding competition, and again it was sort of working with James Hornsby School, looking about what we love about Langdon. So students submitted some photos, and I know that the councillors were involved in selecting which ones won. And one that we haven't shown before, which I thought you might be interested in, is looking at the plans for what we're going to do with the War Memorial once the scheme is finished. Now, this is just a concept that we're a company that we're working with, a stonemasons college, that we've come up with. By means, this is not the final design. And again, we want to work with the community so that they can actually help us in designing up what the new War Memorial, what is going to accompany the War Memorial when the scheme is finished. So this is a concept that has been come up with, you know, commemorating people in the local area who died in the two world wars. And as I say, this is by no means what the final design will be, but again, it's important that you know, this is something that's always going to be on our radar. We want to get this right. We want to work with the community to make sure that it's something appropriate that they approve of, and that they feel that they've had a part in you know, they've played a part in agreeing the design. So I thought that was worth sharing. That's about it from me. Just a quick run through of really where we are, but happy to take any questions that members may have.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jack, for that presentation. From my point of view, before I invite members in, and if it's possible, are we able to stop sharing the screen just so I can still? Yeah. Thank you. Just I need to be able to see people on the screen to make this work. I mean, from our point of view, you know, hats off to Swan for the responsible way in which you approached the COVID-19 pandemic, and the way in which you protected your staff by closing your sites, not just here, but as you say, across the region. I think the second thing to say is that the War Memorial that you have outlined there, the indicative War Memorial, is something that we certainly are looking to do, not just in Langdon, but also in Basildon Town Centre as well, with the names of the fallen on the memorial. The modular housing factory, you will know as well that we were asked to submit projects to government that could be ready to go, and the second part of the modular factory was something that we did do, and I think that shows an ongoing partnership and commitment between both Swan and Basildon, which is delivering for our residents and our businesses. So hugely positive, and clearly, look, COVID's going to have an impact, isn't it? The quarter of the year, the country was in shutdown, so that's going to have an impact. But you know, all credit to Swan for the ambitious way in which you are approaching those timelines to get back on track. And I think I speak on behalf of the whole committee when I say we wish you every success in meeting those deadlines as well. Members, I can see all of you, I think, so if you want to wave at me if you wish to speak, Councillor Henry and then Councillor Mackenzie.
Good to see you, Jack. Thanks for the presentation. As always, top-notch work for Langdon, especially community work. Having gone through a particularly difficult phase of the COVID-19 times that we've all been living in, the temporary retail units have been an absolute godsend to the local community. Even the opticians, which have been operating an emergency NHS triage centre to obviously keep people out of the health centres and the hospitals. So once again, thanks for the excellent work we did last year. I'm very pleased that there'll be continuity for them before they move into their proper units. I'm constantly stunned when I see the phase 1A, because I keep forgetting it's there when I come home from work and drive past and there's houses 100 feet in the air. But they, again, a huge amount of work that seems to have just come on, and it just seems to have happened over lunch break, I think. Again, really appreciative of the work on the War Memorial. I think the work that's already done for the community to get that moved, to have that preserved. The temporary list of names is something we've never had there. It's been there since 1935. We've never had the names there. So the idea that there's actually something really fitting and really permanent in the offering for the future is a lovely touch. So thanks again for the presentation, Jack, and welcome back. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo the previous comments from both the previous speakers on the good work that Swan has been doing. Just two questions. Can you elaborate on what the main problems are with the NHS, and is there anything either the council can do, or if through our contact through members of parliament we can do to get the NHS moving? And also, have you done any analysis of retail rentals in the post-COVID-19 world? Is it going to have an impact on rental prices and income, for example? And will the businesses who have previously expressed an interest still be interested in terms of their particular markets and clientele?
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. On the first point in the NHS, I think we're all aware that the process of trying to bring about a new Langdon Health Centre has not been easy at times, but we've made some really good progress and worked really well in partnership with the different parts of the NHS, as well as obviously working really well with the regeneration team at Basildon Council, who've been supportive of us all the way through. I think the issue is at the moment is about the agreeing the leases in terms of those people who are going to occupy the new health centre. So it will be the GP surgery that is currently in operation or in occupation at the existing Langdon Health Centre, and then also whatever community health services that are provided from the new Langdon Health Centre. I think it's just trying to agree the leases on that, and there's been a lot of work that's being done. I really think that us have a lot of sympathy with obviously NHS colleagues who I've spoken to, who have had to be pulled away onto other urgent matters, which is totally understandable. I wouldn't expect anything different, and I know that they're sort of coming back to these sort of roles now and picking these sort of things up. So I am expecting it to move. I think we're going to try and get your regeneration team on a call with the all parties on the NHS in the next couple of weeks. That I think we're going to try and hold. We've spoken about that in Swan, just trying to get these last few bits ongoing. But I think at the moment it's just being a bit patient, just letting the system get back to as it needs to. But I think we really need to get this NHS site started early in the new year. Otherwise, we are going to see an issue with our programme. So I think there's work that the regen team can do in sort of trying to push along and chip away at the CCG and those GPs to encourage them to sign up and to say, we really want to get this moving, we really want to get you into this new building. But yeah, we've had some really good support from the regen team so far, and I'll expect that to continue. In terms of the retail, we haven't actually undertaken any analysis of rents or interest since COVID. To be honest with you, we still had a lot of people. We still had expressions of interest coming in. When we were in lockdown, and we still had businesses wanting to open up there. As I say, we are looking to sort of formally let some of these units later on in this year and launch our phase 2 of our retail strategy. So I think we'll get more of a sense then of potentially what rents people might want to pay, and the length of leases that people might want to take. The conversation we've had with potential retailers is that potentially the length of the lease they may want to take is reduced. So where we may have been up people who would be happy to take 15-year leases, where they may want to take with a 10-year break clause, some of people may potentially, or have indicated they may want to reduce that and only take a 10-year lease with a 5-year break clause. So the security and the length of lease is probably where we're seeing it. I haven't had any conversations yet with people who say they want to potentially pay less in rent than what was previously agreed, but it seems that the length of lease may be where we see a reduction.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, thank you. And do please do let the committee know if we can help in relation to the NHS. Back in 2017, I was pleased to write to the Property Services Division as well, and if we can do that to help the cause, then we will, of course, do that. Councillor Headley.
Thank you, Chairman. Really pleased with the report. Given the COVID problems, I'm surprised the delay is as small as it is. Going back to the post office, right from the outset, this was the idea was to put it in the library. If two of us on this committee are county councillors, is there anything that we could do at county that would help, or is this a problem with the post office service? That's the first question. And just a comment, I'm really pleased that the 60%, 40% split between flats and houses. I think that gives a really good mix, and the shared ownership is to be applauded, particularly if it's going to increase, because I think affordable property in that part of the borough is very important. Can I just ask, Jack, if the numbers that you showed in your presentation, does that include the numbers when the existing Lidl site is built out for residential? Thank you.
Jack.
Thank you. On the first point around the post office, I've been in touch with people from Essex Libraries, and they've assured me that it's nothing to do with them. They're very keen on the post office going in there, and they've been quite helpful in facilitating site visits so that the post office can understand, what they're going to do, the works they're going to undertake. So my understanding of the situation is that it's a hold that the post office have put on any transactional matters. So it seems like it's an issue that, as a result of COVID-19, that they've taken as a sort of wide, it's not just this issue where they've decided, it seems like a wider decision that they've made, that they want to put transactional matters on hold. So I have checked that, and it does seem that it's a post office issue, and actually Essex Libraries have been quite helpful in facilitating some of that. It may be worth a nudge in Essex Libraries direction just to check that definitely is the case. But my understanding is that it's a post office matter that seems to be putting this on hold for the time being. But as I say, we are definitely still keen on that going in there. I think that would provide a really good community service alongside that temporary retail. On the second point, I think, the 224 units that we'll be delivering does include that what will be going on the existing Lidl site. The current planning permission that we've got includes for 20 houses on that site. 224 includes that existing Lidl site, and we are working closely with homes in SA to increase the number of affordable across the scheme. So I think hopefully we can push it to a situation where we're sort of looking at a 50-50 split between sort of shared ownership and market sale.
Brilliant, thank you. Councillor Burton-Sampson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Jack, thank you again for that presentation and everything that you have been doing for the community and your workers throughout COVID. I reiterate everything everybody else has said. Councillor Headley has predominantly picked up my area of concern. I'd just like to express that residents in the Leindon area desperately do need that post office facility back. It will be great to get some pressure on the post office when the time is right to get that facility back into the Leindon area. But I also wanted to express some thanks about the way that you and your team have been conducting yourselves as part of the build. There's been minimal disruption in the Leindon area, which has been great. The area's been kept clean and tidy as well, which is pleasing to see given the amount of work that's going on. And I'm also really pleased to see the quality of product that's coming out in these shared ownership houses. It's a high quality product and giving that shared ownership option as well. So it's the stuff that we aspire to as we obviously work with developers in the borough, and it's great to see the quality of housing that you're putting there that many people are going to benefit from. So thank you, and keep working on that post office thing.
Absolutely. Okay, I have no further members indicating on this. So Jack, thank you for your contribution tonight. Please do come back in the autumn as well to give us another update, and of course please do keep engaging with the Langdon Working Group as well. Those members are of course very interested, and indeed we have residents associations as well in Langdon who know through Councillor Burton Sampson. So please do also keep engaging there. You are perfectly entitled and welcome to stay and listen to what is happening in the 4 other towns of the borough, or feel free to take your leave from the committee tonight. But thank you to Jack and to Ron.
Thank you for having me. And one last thing, you know, on those landmark houses, I'm very happy that if we can, in a sort of socially distanced way, and in accordance with government guidelines, if any of the councillors on the committee, any of the members of the committee do want to come down and have a look at those landmark houses, we can try and facilitate that. If that was something of interest to members of the committee, we're happy to facilitate that.
Brilliant, thank you. And Karina,
Yes.
we can note that as an action as well, and perhaps after the summer we will be able to be in a position to do that. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the delivery of the Basildon Town Centre Master Plan. I'm keen, as I said at our previous meeting, for members to be updated. Somehow I was muted. Okay, sorry. What I was saying there is I want, as part of agenda item 5, I do want members of the committee to be updated regularly throughout. Of course, the statutory consultation ended on the 12th of July, and we will be working through this throughout the summer before coming back to this committee in September as well. But as a first stab at the consultation responses and how we will be moving forward, I thought it was prudent for us to have an early opportunity to engage in this process. So I'm going to hand over to Matt to follow this through and to present this report and give members an update on what's been going on, and then we'll open it up to questions. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, if it's okay, actually roll item 5 and 6 together, because they're both relating to an update in relation to the master plan. So I'll do a presentation and I'll cover the report that we issued delivering Basildon Town Centre Master Plan within the first few slides, and then we'll move on to a kind of a more general update after that, if that's okay. So I'll share my screen. Okay. Assume you can all see that okay. Right, start with the master plan status. So the first couple of slides relate directly to the report that we sent through delivering Basildon Town Centre Master Plan. The purpose of it is to set out how the vision will be implemented through a town centre regeneration strategy in the first instance, and the timetable that's related to that. Given the pre-application discussions that are now underway and are progressing at pace with 4 landowners in the town centre, there is a need to provide some clear strategic direction to those considering investing in the town centre in the short term ahead of formal planning documentation being approved. It's recommended for approval that this is done through developing a Basildon Town Centre regeneration strategy based on the draft master plan document and the consultation feedback. And that would confirm the vision for the town centre to residents, visitors, businesses and landowners. And what you can see on this image on the right hand side is actually those 4 applications that we've got coming forward at the moment. One of them is in our control, which is the HIF scheme in blue. We've got Marsons in orange, we've got Orwell in green, and then obviously Eastgate over on the other side in purple. So what that's telling us, I think, is that actually a good portion of the town centre is moving forward at pace now, at speed. So we need to be able to deal with that. So advice was sought in June regarding the intended planning status of the draft master plan. The current stage of the emerging local plan makes adoption of either SPD or DPD unachievable at the present time. So the creation of a DPD would also be subject to independent examination by a planning inspector prior to adoption as part of the council's development plan. So timetable for adoption of the master plan as planning policy in that way would not be achieved in advance of the emerging plan, which would not be until 2022, which is clearly out of alignment with the ambitions of the landowners, as I've just shown you. So to guide these planning applications, it's proposed the guiding principles in the draft master plan, informed by the consultation responses, become the basis for a town centre regeneration strategy, which will be presented to Town Centre Revival Committee and adopted thereafter alongside additional guidance for developers. And the reason for this is timing. The reason for this is the vision is being delivered in reality now, and we want to be able to be clear about our expectations for our developers and our partners. So I'll move on to the rest of the presentation, but obviously we'll take questions on that at the end as well. So consultation, as the leader pointed out, formal public consultation on Commonplace closed on the 12th of July 2020. So during that time, we carried out a webinar for developers, partners and investors. And that took place on the 9th of June, was really well attended, about 80 odd people came to that. We did 2 public webinars that took place in July. So we had presentations, we had Q&As with our panel. So that they were, again, well attended. I think the first one was about 70 odd people. The second one was about 40 odd. Then we had a public sector webinar, which took place in July, including representatives from the NHS, Police, Essex County Council, South Essex College, Fire and Rescue, and other partners in the town centre. And then also we had we had 6 member sessions, which were arranged to talk about aspects of our overall approach, quite high level kind of regeneration principles. So our overall approach to the master plan and the delivery. So it's been a busy few months in terms of consultation. I thought what I wanted to show is just some of the very high level results that we're seeing. So consultation, we had 1160 visitors, we had 671 contributions, we had, and actually 55% positive, 21% neutral, and 23% negative. And so this graphic on the right hand side, you can see how that breaks down between the 6 areas that we've asked people to respond on. So the 5 character areas themselves, and then the vision and the guiding principles. And it gives you an indication of that positivity across all of those areas, actually. And I thought I'd just quickly give some high-level overview of some of the responses. So these are ones where people strongly agree. So, and you can see obviously the blue and the black are yes, strongly, or yes, and then moving down to no and not at all at the bottom. So you can see these are all quite positive responses. So do you support the proposals for a greater variety of town centre uses in this area? Do you support the proposal for increased cultural and leisure facilities and evening or nighttime destinations, which is really good? That's a really good positive response for that nighttime economy. Do you support the proposals for more workplaces in the town centre? That's overwhelmingly yes. Do you agree that the new town character and architecture should be celebrated? There's obviously quite a lot more people with no opinion on that one, but still strongly positive. So these are the areas where we've got more mixed opinion. So I wouldn't call any of them negative as such, but they're certainly divided between yes, I do agree, and no, I don't agree. So the first one is, do you support proposals for quality, affordable housing in this area? Do you support proposals to downgrade Southern Hay to a single lane in either direction? Do you support proposals for consolidating car parking to free up spaces for homes? And then finally, do you support the proposals for new homes in the town centre? So these are the areas, and I think, you know, these are the areas that were coming out as we were doing the sessions with the public, as areas of where they do have natural worries. So it's unsurprising that these results are kind of falling into those patterns. I would say probably the consolidating car parking is the one which is maybe more negative than the others, actually. So that's something we need to think of. You know, that's a message for the design team that we now need to go away and work on. So as well as the consultation, we've done a lot of work in relation to delivery. We've already shown how things are moving forward in the town centre at pace, and we need to make sure that we're ready to keep pace with that. So we've identified 6 key work streams for us to be engaging with. And there's around about 20 themes within each of those areas. So we're talking like public realm, energy, economics, real estate, communications, mobility and management. And then there's lots of subsections within those as well. So we're trying to think about all the things that we need to deal with, all of the glue that holds together what we're trying to achieve here. So within all of these, we've suggested champions that are members, actually. So we'll be in touch with members to see if members want to get involved in this process. We've established clear delivery teams with leaders. That's all in place now. We've had inception meetings so people understand what their responsibilities are around this. This is all cross-departmental working, so these are quite new teams that are being formed. They're quite exciting. It's interesting. People are working together in areas that they've never done before, actually. So all of those teams are working on a PID document. So they're thinking about budget, they're thinking about timescales, they're thinking about risks, and that's the key thing that we need to kick off first up. And actually, all of this is going to be coordinated by, and we're suggesting it is coordinated and maintained by a town centre coordinator. So we think somebody needs to take the role of pulling all of this together. And so that kind of leads on to the key regeneration resources. And this is just about how we're organising ourselves. So we think that there should be an implementation team for the town centre. We think it fits hand in glove with the regeneration team. But we think there should be a town centre coordinator, someone clearly with the responsibility to deal with these work streams, to deal with these applications that are coming forward, and to be really focused on this and really delivering it day to day. We think we need some support, PMO support with that, which is unsurprising. Individual project leads. You know, some of these projects will become big tasks. Some of them will be maybe delivered by the council. So in the future, we will need individual project leads to jump into this and take some of these projects forward and deliver them. We need strategic acquisition lead, someone who's I think we've said before, we've got over 70 or so different landowners in the town centre. So we need somebody that's across all of those, speaking to those landowners, finding out their aspirations, working on their timescales, and understanding where strategic acquisition might be an opportunity. We need someone there'll be a lot of legal considerations throughout all of this. So we need someone from legal to be clearly engaged with this team. And then there's loads of other internal departmental links. But what we want to do is have clear points of contact all across this. So this is just the way we're organising ourselves. And then I think just to touch on the governance. So we've now got a town centre programme delivery group that's up and running, which is chaired by the chief executive. We're suggesting that the town centre coordinator would provide updates and key decisions to that group. So that's how we would deal with this, and then it would obviously we would still be engaging with town centre revival committee above that. So finally, next steps. So what are we doing now? We're getting that implementation team up and running, and people are understanding responsibilities. We now have the town centre programme delivery group up and running. That met earlier this week, which was great. And the key thing for the design team is the analysis of the master plan consultation data. And the design team needs to consider what changes and updates will be needed. How do we react to that? How do we reflect that in the document that we're ultimately going to bring forward to you? Really important work stream delivery. This needs to happen now, particularly the high priority elements. We need to be making sure that we are clear about our requirements, our needs, before planning applications are determined. So there's elements of this that are quite urgent that we're moving forward with. Placemaking strategy. So we're thinking about how this can now evolve into something that feeds really nicely into the delivery plan and the work that we're actively doing on the ground. You know, all this is now, we're in the delivery phase. You know, actually this is happening now. So we're kind of moving from a point where we're looking at sort of abstract documents to actually teams and delivering and action. And then throughout that, we're continuing to engage with investors, developers, public sector partners. So that's all continuing as it has been throughout the whole of this process, actually. So that's the end of my presentation on this. And obviously happy to take questions. And Tom Ash is here, Christine is here. So by all means, yeah, please ask us.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt, for that. Members, if I ask you to indicate, Councillor Mackenzie, you indicated first. I'll come to you.
Thank you. I think it won't come any surprise to other members of the committee that I'm against this proposal. I strongly came out against it at the last meeting. I'm mostly against the high-rise development. I think we should limit the height size. I have quite a few concerns about this, in particular local services. I understand that Basildon's already called Essex Council saying please provide school places for this because there won't be enough. In normal times, Basildon train station is already at capacity. Now, that may not be the case in the future as people start to work from home, but we've got 10,000 box homes essentially being built in the town centre, and people do want to work from home and work in London. They're probably going to want bigger space. I don't think this is going to stop this problem we've had with London councils buying up and renting properties in the local area and offloading their problems to us. There could be large development there. They're still going to be able to do that either by directly or through local landlords. I'm also concerned about the consultation. I think the leader criticised the incinerator owners, proposed owners, for using the pandemic to push through their proposals and doing their consultation during this time. I don't think now is the right time to do a consultation. People have other concerns. Also, you have the questions. Actually, the questions in the consultation, I think are perfectly reasonable. I would be in favour for. But if you said to people in the consultation, do you support building 20-storey tower blocks, some bigger than Brook House, I'm sure a lot of people would come back no. If you ask them, do you want to cram 10,000 people into the town centre, I'm sure a lot of people would say no. This hasn't gone to full council yet. We haven't had a full council now for a long time. I think we need to get this debate taken to full council, and it should be done before September or whenever it's due to go. Again, I just think this proposal is going to be detrimental to the town centre, and I've heard the argument that actually it's going to take pressure off other areas to build houses. In fact, I think it'll probably exacerbate the problem if we're building enough for 10,000 people, predominantly who are going to move into the area from outside the area. At some point, they're going to want to upsize. They're going to want to have families. They're going to want to expand. And they're going to want homes in the surrounding towns, in Pitsea, in Leyden, in Billericay, in Wickford. And suddenly, the future demand's going to be higher. There's going to be higher pressure for homes in the area, and we're going to have to remove more green spaces, get more urban sprawl, and expand housing beyond what we would have to do if this proposal did not go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back at the end with some clarifications on those points, but Councillor Harrison has indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask perhaps just the head of planning is the best one to answer this question. There's applications likely to come in for various parts of the town centre private applications, nothing to do with the council, which could come in at any time. And some of these things which Councillor Mackenzie is talking about is prejudging applications which haven't come in yet. Orwell could put an application in tomorrow probably, and we would have to consider it. So I say to Councillor Mackenzie and others, is it not best for the council to have some control over the entity, or to let individual developers come along and do it piecemeal? I'm assuming that could happen, Mrs. Lyons.
And it will happen tomorrow. An application is due in tomorrow for 500 dwellings at Orwell plus commercial. And also an application is due end of August for 300 units on another site. And probably later in the year, we're going to get Eastgate coming in with 2,500 units, which is a point that Matt made in his presentation, that actually we can't, as a council, you can decide to object to the master plan and the aims of the master plan, but we cannot use that as a reason for refusal for planning those planning applications. And what we're trying to stitch together with the master plan in its format as a strategy is to allow us to assess those issues around the six themes that that Matt has brought to your attention. And it's that stitching that we're trying to do to create the environment that all members want for the town centre, and we're keen that we need to deliver. Otherwise, all that you're going to get is you're going to get 5 applications and 5 developments that don't talk to each other. And I don't think there's enough, we haven't got enough in terms of policy to actually object to some of these developments. So it is a case of we've got to manage these developments properly, which is the approach we're now taking about using a strategy rather than an SPD or a DPD.
Dave, before you come back, Thomas, did you want to answer some of the first part of Councillor
Yes,
Harris?
please. Yes, please. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie, for the questions. Just to try and link those points together, and I appreciate the concerns that you're raising, but in terms of the future homes, we've been striding over the years to grow Basildon, and obviously the local plan, which the head of planning has been front and centre leading on, along with myself and the team, is the key to that, unlocking that growth, of which the master plan is obviously a very helpful vehicle to enable that overall delivery. And it's a component linkage, future downstream, which is obviously what Mr. Carroll has highlighted. And as the head of planning is also indicating, it provides some guidance and principles to steer that development. Otherwise, we could have, you know, a little bit of a problem otherwise. I think also the growth point is a useful one. I note your concerns about it going into the green field, but the local plan identifies a whole range of allocation of sites which are being promoted by various development partners. And I've just come out of a meeting earlier today from discussions with the seller, with Homes England, all of which are looking for this growth to come landing in Basildon as well. So I think we are very well placed to support that growth, and this master plan acts as a very good integral jigsaw piece to that.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, if I can, Chairman. Thank you, Mrs. Lyons, for that answer, because I think it's important we keep control of this to some degree. It may change on the planning applications because members of the planning committee may have different views on the question, but we're prejudging already planning applications. Now, I think some members are coming very close to predetermining planning applications, possibly by indicating their objection to anything at this point in time. Now, I haven't seen a planning application yet, so I don't know if there's going to be one with 20 stories in, as Councillor Mackenzie suggests. In terms of importing residents from the London boroughs, that can happen now. It does happen now. It's more likely to happen in the future following the government's change in planning legislation this week. So it's a thing we've got to be aware of. We, as a council, are unable at this point in time to control that, what the government is suggesting doing. But to me, having this development done as an entity is far more chance of that not happening than it is of happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Next, we have Councillor Burton-Sampson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. You know, I'm excited about the future for Basildon. I think we look at the economic climate that we're currently in, which I don't think we expected ourselves to be in as we entered 2020. And yet we still have a number of developers who are committed and wanting to put some high quality development into our borough, into Basildon. They don't want Basildon or Basildon Borough to die, because there's a choice here. We either take no action and we end up with a load of permitted development in the town centre that we don't want, that's not fit for purpose, that's not going to benefit the people of our borough, that's not going to bring the housing, the jobs, the retail, the entertainment, the workspace that we need in the borough. Or we create a plan and a way forward, and we create the strategies we're now doing to make sure that the development that does come in is appropriate and is the right type of development that's going to benefit the people of this borough. You know, it's really interesting. There's been a lot of concern about tower blocks, as we keep hearing. Now, when you have the conversation with residents, as I've had the conversation with many residents, and the residents listen and understand what we're trying to achieve here, they understand that actually we're creating we're encouraging quality housing. We're encouraging housing that will benefit the people of this borough, the people that are struggling to get on the property ladder, who live in our borough, the children of many of the residents in this borough who have currently no opportunity to get on the property ladder because those properties don't exist, to the people who are on our housing waiting list, who are desperately in need of suitable accommodation. And this is the type of housing that we are looking to create through partners and developers. And I just think we just need to talk more about what this actually means, and just kill some of these myths that are out there about what the council's intentions are and what developers' intentions are. I'm, as I said, really excited about the future moving forward, and I'm excited about the fact that so many people want to invest in Basildon Borough, and we need to start seeing the positives of this, and the fact that we will hopefully end up with a town centre fit for purpose at the end of this, as opposed to a town centre that's dying on its knees like it currently is now. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Tom Ash, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, sorry. Thank you. And in line with Councillor Burton-Sampson's comments there, what I would add is, despite the COVID, which you heard has had an impact on all the construction, we've still been able to continue with the construction in the town centre. You'll see in the recent steelwork going up on the cinema site. So the market is still supporting there. It hasn't faded away. The college is doing the same. And I think we are as well constantly in contact with a number of interested parties who are expressing their desire to work with us in the future, and in order to bring forward this master plan and development. So I take a very positive and optimistic view here, in line with Councillor Burton-Sampson.
Thank you. I have Councillor Headley next.
Thank you, Leader. I think I need to make it clear that the Conservative group are fully supportive of the regeneration of the town centre. And I think the evidence I would give for that is that we when in administration, acquired the East Walk and secured the contract for the Empire Cinema development. The relocation of the college and the relocation of the market were all part of that reinvigoration of the town centre. But I think I owe it to the administration, to potential developers, investors and partners to make it very clear that if there were to be a change of administration, we would not pursue this current master plan. We believe that the consultation was deeply flawed, and Luke Mackenzie, Councillor Mackenzie, has already articulated some of the points. I believe that you should have used the 7 principles as laid out by the Centre for Consultation, and the particular principle, Principle 6, is on disclosure. I do not think that the way the consultation was done, there was full disclosure to the public taking part in that consultation as to the economic risks that the council is taking. I don't believe that there was sufficient design information. There was no information on waste, although there is, in one of the presentations, it alludes to an NVAC system, which is a vacuum system which takes waste to a heat and power plant. In some people's eyes, that's an incinerator. So I think I hope, made it very clear that we would stop this process if we were in administration. And I think developers and investors need to be aware that we would essentially bin the present consultation and we would redo the consultation. Now, I understand that that would cause considerable delay, but I think it's important for the residents of Basildon, indeed the residents of the borough, that we get this right, because financially you've already borrowed 100 million. I believe you will need to borrow far more unless you can get investors in to carry that financial burden. There are numerous other regeneration projects in Southend, Chelmsford, Harlow, indeed across the country. Barking and Dagenham have massive regeneration plans. Croydon are building up to 40 stories for flats. And that's why earlier in the evening, I mentioned the balance between flats and homes on the Langdon development. And I believe that is the way we should go. I'm of the opinion at the moment that no one understands where retail is going. I don't think even the people that have been involved in retail for the whole of their working life understand what retail would look like next year or 5 years down the road. I think we need to do a much better consultation, be much more honest with the residents as to what this development will look like. I think I'll end my comments there for the moment. Where we can support the issues, we will, but we will be opposing. Can I just pick up one point? Councillor Harrison, of course, is absolutely right. Predetermination is a very difficult area. I happened to chair the meeting when Dry Street was approved, when Dry Street went through planning. 2 former councillors that sat on that planning application had both been in the press in the preceding weeks saying how bad Dry Street was. The 151 officer decided that they could sit on that planning application because they said they had come to the planning meeting with an open mind. I assume the current 151 officer would make the same judgment. So predetermination is the most difficult thing in the world to prove. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Headley. Next, I have Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any sense of predetermination with this because I haven't actually seen any plans. I've seen the CGI images that are out and about in the papers, online and everything else. Nobody but a fool would argue that we need to do something with Basildon Town Centre. We absolutely do. As a retailer of 32 years in retail, Basildon Town Centre really is on its uppers. I've seen countless town centres tinker about and try to help and try to do this and fragment town centres, you know, stretch it out, add bits on, remove bits. One of the things I've always loved about Basildon is the sense of open space, that great big community space that's available for retailers, available for shoppers, for families. I've always thought Basildon was a very family-orientated town. My concern with this is the pace of it, and the fact that we are at best custodians of the history of this town. But we need to, in my view, work a lot harder to bring the residents along on a journey with us. I don't, you know, I have no doubts whatsoever that if this came to full council tomorrow, you've got votes and can do it. I'm not against the development of the town centre. I don't particularly like high-rise flats, but we need more to engage our residents. When we had the local plan, we took a roadshow out. We took it around community centres, Wickford, Billericay, London, Pitsea, everywhere. We had it in Eastgate Centre. We need something like that, so that residents who don't sit on a computer or sit on a smartphone have access to this information and can have a view if they want to. I think, Mr. Chairman, that would be my observation on this. I'm not a great lover of high-rise flats. I've got lots of friends who have lived in Horsbrook or the Mardyke or Cecil Court or Royal Court. It's a miserable life in these high tower blocks. I think we need to do more to get the town on side. We need to do more to explain what it is that we're proposing and why we're proposing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring Matt back in, and then
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on the point about sort of the reference to sort of flawed consultation. I just wanted to, obviously we did this consultation in completely unprecedented times, so that we all know that. I just wanted to make it really clear that this consultation is for the master plan itself, but it's just the beginning. The consultation for each and every one of these projects will take place, and actually those will all come forward separately. The Orwell, infrared, Marston schemes, and our own HIF scheme will all come forward for much more detailed consultation for public. I just thought it might be worth, so at that point this is actually, in a sense, this is the beginning of that process. But I thought I just wanted to, because I think I wanted to look at the numbers that we had. It's incredibly difficult to compare, obviously, this kind of consultation with any other kind, because it's pretty unique. We're asking some very specific questions. We're asking people to absorb a lot of information. But what we have done is we've looked at a couple of other examples. So Enfield's local plan. So we received just under half of the number of contributions for Enfield's local plan, which has double the population, was held over a 12-week period, and actually obviously relates to the whole of the borough rather than a particular part of it. Another example that we have is the Sutton Town Centre Master Plan. Received 800 contributions. We had 678. So they got a slightly larger number, but their borough has a slightly larger population, 205,000 versus 185,000. So I suppose what that shows is that we are reaching people. You know, we are getting responses that are around what should be expected for something like this in a very broad sense. But I just there is a particular point, I think it was raised by Councillor Henry, about people who are harder to reach. And this has been very difficult for us throughout this. We've made it clear that people can have the information posted to them throughout the process, and they can come into the office and see it. But what we're going to do, we've got a press release that will be going out shortly with some information around the consultation. And we're going to make it clear, and I'm sort of quoting from it, that residents without internet access who want to register their views about the master plan can call the council's regeneration team. So what we'll do is we'll speak to people, we'll get things posted out if we need to, because we know that that's actually a hard to reach place. So we just want to give people that chance to register their views as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thomas, you wanted to come back in, and then I will sum up on this item.
Yes, please. I was just also going to add to the point, and appreciate, you know, we are in operating in very unprecedented times, and we have been trying to adapt to that to make sure that we are giving full exposure and engagement. I think the other point to bear in mind, in addition to the points that colleagues have referenced, when we go down the road and we are looking at an SPD or a DPD as outlined in the original part of the presentation, there'll be even further opportunities for consultation in connection with that. So, you know, there are layers, significant layers all the way through here to give people the opportunity. And it's not just our consultation. You'll find, no doubt, that as these individual applications come forward, they themselves will be carrying out their own consultation with a broad range of stakeholders and public. So just to give you a degree of reassurance on that, members.
Thank you, Christine. Go on then, quickly.
Just quickly, the first application that's due in on Friday, we are working with comms on the consultation strategy for that. We're looking at sending out probably about 5,000 letters to residents that live in the local area about the application. We're also seeking the applicants to put up around the site the plans for their development as well, so our residents who actually are in the town centre can actually see what's coming forward. And also they are arranging their own separate consultation webinars with open to our residents as well. So we're trying to expand the normal planning consultation route for planning applications as well, bearing in mind where we are today with the current situation.
Thank you, Christine. And look, I have to say to my opposition colleagues, fair play to you all, because it takes a special level of bravery to come out of the woods and say, it is your position, having, I think Jeff, Councillor Henry used the words, we're custodians of the town. And of course you were for 17 years and you allowed the town to fall into the decline and the disrepair that it is at the moment, with 55 different landowners and the place falling apart. And we were all expected to just hope that a cinema was going to be the domino effect to everything else. And that just never materialized for 8 years. To be in a position where you now say that you are against the plan and that you would stop it if you were ever in administration and turn your backs on hundreds of millions of pounds of investment so that we could all go back to what went before, which was stagnation and decline, I think is a pretty brave policy position, because there is, of course, one thing that lacks any credibility, and that is to say we're not going to do something without them being able to articulate exactly what you would do instead. And for you to be able to stack up with viabilities. I mean, the idea we would put houses into the town centre rather than flats and residential accommodation of that order, it just beggars belief, to tell you the truth. And I do want to touch on this, because the constant conversation about this master plan has featured around high rise. What I don't ever hear the opposition talk about is the fact that we are creating new journeys around the town centre, ending the problem that we have, that the town centre is essentially surrounded by a moat, that it is hard to get into, that it is unsafe for many people, that it has alleyways and everything else that puts people off from coming in and dwelling in the town centre. We are dealing with that in this. What I never hear is them talk up the fact that we are putting greenery and proper public open space, a decent environment for people to want to dwell in. We're putting that back into the town centre. I never hear the opposition talk about how we're bringing these buildings to life with proper mixed uses, and that we are focusing on food and beverage and diversifying the offer so that it isn't just about retail. Councillor Headley says that I don't think anyone could say that we have any idea what's going to happen with retail. Well, you know, here's a guess. It's going to get worse, because retail has gradually been getting worse for the last 10 or 15 years. This shouldn't be a surprise to the guy who was the portfolio holder for Regeneration for so long. You should be able to recognise that there has to be a mixed use, there has to be a diversification, which is what this is seeking to do. So that it's not just all about an Eastgate shopping centre, that it's actually about residential, that it's about food and beverage offers, that there's restaurants, there's bars, there's cinemas, there's the arena that we're talking about, bringing live entertainment, music and sport into the town centre as well. They also seem to forget, if I may be so bold, that when you were in administration last time, you passed an emerging local plan. And that local plan was subject to extensive consultation, where there was in excess of 2,200 homes to be built in the town centre under your own local plan. What we are doing is simply topping up that number. So the idea that there hasn't been consultation on development in the town centre, unless you're suggesting you guys didn't do it when it came to the local plan, you're falling foul there. As we've heard, there's multiple consultations that have gone on. This idea that you are seeking to frame a narrative that this 6-week consultation is the only thing that has ever happened. I could not have been clearer. 6 days after I became leader of this council, the front page of both of our local newspapers at the time was very clear that this was what we were going to pursue as the #1 priority of Basildon Council. We made that, we're engaged in consultation for weeks before Christmas out and around the town centre. All of our applicants, we were very clear, and it is striking that the comparison was drawn between what's gone on with this town centre regeneration applications and perhaps what hasn't gone on with the waste plant and Essex County Council and the incinerator at Essex County Council, is that we were very clear that those pre-apps needed to be done in public, that we wanted the public to be a part of the pre-application process, which is why there have been webinars and consultations that those developers have been doing before they get to application stage with the public. So again, the idea that the last 6 weeks is the only consultation that there has been is for the birds, because there have been multiple consultations. And as we've already heard from Matt and others, there will be more as each individual planning application comes forward. Again, I think I reiterate the point that Councillor Burton Sampson has made. Here we are, and Councillor Headley talked about economic risk, and that we didn't talk about economic risk, and that we borrowed £100 million and would have to borrow more. You know, we haven't spent 25% of the money that we borrowed in that strategy. We haven't needed to, because what has happened is that the private sector finally, after 16 years, has got confidence that Basildon Council has actually got a vision, a plan, a strategy, and the political will to get this town centre regenerated. And they have come forward with hundreds of millions of pounds of private sector investment. That is not the building out of the Orwell development, the building out of the Marsons or the Eastgate or whatever development it is that comes forward will not come from Basildon taxpayers funding it. It will come from private investment. And again, I say to Conservative members, you're a brave bunch to turn your back on hundreds of millions of pounds of private sector investment coming into Basildon Town Centre, because that is what is on the table today. The presentation talked about the alignment of the landowner's vision. Well, actually, it's the alignment of Basildon Council's vision. We're very clear now. The council is clear that we want to get on with this, because as we've already heard from the head of planning, we can't wait to take control. We have to take control of this process as quickly as we can, because what we've had with the Westgate development and others is a piecemeal approach to regeneration that just hasn't worked. So we have to have a fully integrated plan all the way across the 1 kilometre of our town centre. I'd also say, if I can, in terms of pace, I sat for 4 odd hours last night through the Policy and Resources Committee, which was painful enough, listening to every agenda item, Conservative councillors saying, no, we should stop, we shouldn't do this, we should kick this into the long grass, we should defer for a year. And here we are again, having got the worst town centre in the UK, with the dereliction that exists in our town centre. We have the guys who presided over that dereliction now telling the new guys with the new plan to stop. Don't go ahead. Keep it as it is. There's no alternative vision on the table. I think, if I'm honest, people will see through it. And the big sword of Damocles that hangs over their heads, not just of Basildon Council, but every other council, is now your government's decision to enable permitted development rights to be extended, to cut out from the planning process this council and all democratically elected councillors in councils and town halls across the country, creating democratic deficits in regeneration, placemaking and house building all over the show. And we all know it. Every councillor who sits on this Zoom tonight knows that if we don't get a strategy in place, developers can come along and they can turn those office blocks into residential, and they do not require our permission. No resident will ever get the chance to lobby their elected member to be able to make that change. That is a disgrace of a policy, and every one of us should be fighting the government on permitted development rights, because it has forced us and others into having to make decisions on regeneration that we don't want. The report tonight is just a noting report. And though I am grateful to members for wanting to get into the details of this, I do want to say very clearly that because of the change from the SPD to a regeneration strategy, it is the case that this committee could just unilaterally, as 6 members, decide what that strategy is, and we have the power to adopt that strategy in September, and for that strategy to become the binding document that governs all of the future developments. I don't think that is right. I have toyed over the last few weeks and months with this, and my view is that 42 members should have a say on the document, and therefore I will be bringing, and my aim is to bring this to full council on the 24th of September, and I will be working with group leaders to ensure that we get that date fixed into the diary so that we can bring that to full council. And that will mean that there is another round of this committee beforehand, and then we will refer the document, the strategy, to full council, because I think it is such a big decision for the authority that it isn't right for 6 councillors to just make it. It should go to full council. So I don't have to do that, and none of us on this committee have to do that, but it is the right thing to do, so we will do it. Councillor Headley, you indicated whilst I was speaking, so I will bring you back in.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. I wish I could share your optimism. I obviously don't. I'm a pessimist by nature. But can I encourage you and the consultants working on this, that if you are going to consult on each of the phases of development, that you do adopt the 7 principles articulated by the Consultation Institute, so that you do have a consultation that is appropriate, balanced, and fair. Our main objection to the current situation is we genuinely believe your consultation was flawed and that it has skewed the answers that you have got. Councillor Mackenzie and Councillor Henry did mention how some of those questions could be rephrased. I think you need and you owe it to the residents to have a better, more transparent and more principled consultation on each phase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how many times I can make this point. The next phase of these consultations will be for the developers, the landowners, to come forward and to be consulting with the public. So by all means, whoever owns these particular sites is in the public domain. You can ask our officers, they will provide you with the contact details of those individuals, and by all means get in touch with them and ask them to adopt the 7 principles that I know weren't adopted when it came to Dry Street or many other developments such as Acacia Park. But we will learn from your mistakes, Councillor, and we will look to ensure that the developers do adhere to your 7 principles going forward. We are only asked to note the recommendations tonight, and so I thank Matt and Tomasz and the team for your presentation, and I know also that we have covered agenda item 6 within that report. Agenda item 7 is a town centres update, and tonight we are focusing on Wickford in this particular one, and then we will, of course, as we've done in previous committees, we will look at the other town centres as we go. So Matt, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce agenda item 7.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just share my screen again. Okay. Okay, so actually I'm going to take you through all 3 the remaining town centres. I'm going to leave out Langdon, obviously, because Jack covered that earlier. So Basildon Town Centre, so East Square, good progress is being made on site there. Caroline and the Regen team is going great guns to deliver this project. What you can see there is the frame on site. It's quite a thing now to see, and interestingly, you can actually see the building outline really coming to life, including that that triangle there. And if you go back to that CGI, you can see that's it there, right by the entrance. So we can begin to see this really taking shape and coming to life. So groundworks are advancing well. Steel frame is being erected, on course to be complete in early autumn. Just so you know, a local agent has also been appointed to let the commercial units. Obviously, that's been difficult over the last few months in terms of that commercial interest, but we're going to push forward with that now at some pace. We're in close liaison with Empire as we're progressing. They're responding positively to design clarifications, so that there's that ongoing liaison that we have with them. And just an update on the timing. So construction scheduled to complete by June 21, with fit out to follow by Empire. So anticipated completion in autumn 21. And that was a photo by Zelda Jeffers from Brook House, by the way. So that's a really nice angle of really nice visual of the site there. Quick update on the Great Oaks Quarter site. So proposals being developed by the council here for the former post office block, the Robbins Cinema, the QD block, and Car Park 1. So this is obviously the development that we've secured £9.8 million of Homes England funding. So our architect PTE has been working very well. You can see an very early indication of some early visuals there. Their stage 1 RIBA work is complete, and stage 2 is nearing completion. So this will come again to committee to progress to the planning phase in due course. So we'll have some more detail on this in time. Just so you know, high level capacity work for Car Park 2 and 12 has also been completed as part of this. Car Park 2 and 12 are also included in that HIF project. Further discussions, we're in ongoing discussions with BTCM around parking provision requirements and enhancements to Car Park 1 Great Oaks to enable other car park sites to be unlocked for development. So that's all progressing. And just to touch on, we've already talked about this to some extent, but the major applications, so work is progressing on those. So Town Square North, which is the Marston's scheme, Market Square, which is Orwell, and Eastgate Court at Infrared. So they're all progressing. Market Square is obviously going to be submitted tomorrow. So that's ahead of the others at the moment. All are at pre-application stage. And also work, just so to flag up, work's been undertaken with GS8, which is the owners of the old Carphone warehouse site, and obviously the developers at Trafford House. So it's worth noting that the 3 major projects have been through the quality review panel process, which myself and Christine attended. Some very rigorous I suppose scrutiny over a couple of days, actually. So Eastgate have now been through that twice, and I think that there's going to be a third one shortly. So that's a really good process with industry experts scrutinizing these applications as they come forward. Quick update on the college. So construction's progressing well. You can see there's some really nice, you can see some tangible signs of delivery on site now. There have been delays due to COVID-19, and target handover is expected October 2020. And the college is likely to have its official opening in early 21. What the Regen team are doing at the moment is agreeing the treatment for the externals, the landscaping, and we want to make sure that that is aligned with the emerging thoughts in the master plan. We know that kind of gateway area, we've always said that's a really important part. That's the entrance to Basildon Town Centre. That's the kind of front door. So we want to make sure that that is in line with what we're doing. Okay, moving on to Wickford. So quick update. So the main car park, you can see this vision that our architects at BPTW have produced. They have now completed a strategic overview of Wickford and are progressing really well with developing proposals for 3 key sites there. So the main car park, Lower Southend Road and Station Avenue. The outcome of that work, along with the vision, is being developed into a Wickford regeneration strategy. So we're just pulling all of that together into the kind of a cohesive overview. The work on the main Wickford car park has been prioritised, as there are some real opportunities to bring forward a comprehensive development there with improved retail offer, which includes adjoining land interests. So we're in negotiations on various land interests there. Officers are in discussions at the moment with interested parties, and further committee approvals to progress to the planning phase will be coming forward in due course there. Gibraltar Walk, just a quick update on this. So the feasibility study and the soft market testing to determine best outcomes for the site have been completed, and we went to P&R to present that last night. The committee provided approval to enable the formal marketing stage prior to disposal to commence, and the marketing process is due to commence in September. So marketing materials will be produced in August with a view to going to the market in September. The southern end of the market site. So this at the moment, unfortunately, hasn't moved forward for a while. The agreement with JD Wetherspoons is signed, as we've said before, and on a number of occasions to this council, but it's pending completion by Wetherspoons. So Wetherspoons have taken the decision to delay progression of this scheme due to the coronavirus at this present time. Obviously, they are now focusing on coming back up to speed and reopening all of their premises. So we will continue to engage with them. We'll continue to update the council as we have news around that. Moving on to Pitsea, bingo hall. So officers have met with the owners on a number of occasions to discuss this site, and a review of the site and due diligence has been undertaken to understand any sort of potential development options and value for the site. That's included us doing a condition survey, and a planning appraisal has also been undertaken to inform that. I just think it's worth saying at this stage that it is very difficult to bring forward a deliverable and viable scheme at this present time. So we'll continue to push forward that, but at the moment there are viability issues that's precluding us being able to do anything active there. But we're continuing to engage with the landholder, and we will continue to do so. Then just a very quick update on the phase 2 work. So the position with London and Cambridge remains unchanged, and proposals for phase 2 have been reviewed. There were viability issues around the current proposals, which are likely to be more challenging in light of the current climate. And actually, again, due to the pandemic, officers have been unable to make contact with the London and Cambridge development team for a while now. So what we're doing actually is we are currently looking at what might be possible on our own land here. So we're not going to let this hold us up. We're just going to have a consideration about what we might be able to do, what the council might be able to do here. Okay, that, I think, yeah, that takes me to the end of this presentation. So
Okay.
I'd like to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Members, I'll open this up for questions. Councillor Harrison.
Can I come in and first of all, Chairman, and thank Matt and Caroline from the team for the work that they've been doing on the Wickford regeneration. I'm hopeful from the conversations I've had, and I hope Matt will confirm it, that come the September meeting, we hope to have a better understanding, perhaps, of the main one on the Wickford main car park and what can be achieved. And there may be some decisions we have to make at an early stage, in my view.
Yeah. I'm wary of straying into part 2. So I'll basically say that's the aim, but there are detailed discussions ongoing.
Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie.
Yes, I've got two questions. One, I saw that a bid went in through the LEP to upgrade the Great Oaks car park. I think it was to introduce like better facilities, including electric charging. I was just wondering if someone could expand on that, because I'm not too sure on the detail. I mean, I'm supportive of electric charging, and isn't that owned by private companies? So would that be subsidising their operation? Second, on the Pitsea development with the council land, can we, because I think this came up before, then it got pushed away, to make sure that we don't have Pope's Crescent and Burns Avenue as roads leading into developments further down, because these are currently cul-de-sacs, they cut off from the area, it's quite a quiet residential street, and I don't think the residents would be particularly happy if they're become a cut through for the wider estates. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, do you want to come back?
Just come back on the Great Oaks point. So there'll be more detail coming forward. That's still at design stage. The Great Oaks car park itself is BTCM, so owned by the Basildon Town Centre Management Company. So we're in discussions with them. They own a number of the car parks as well. So actually, that will come forward as part of our Great Oaks Quarter application that moves forward in due course. So you'll see much more detail about that. But yes, electric charging points would be certainly part of that. The whole idea is to make this better, fit for purpose, and actually, hopefully, expand capacity there. That's the idea.
Come back. Will that money come back to the taxpayer, or will that go straight into the owner's hands?
As in,
sorry.
I was going to say, as in the charging points, the money that is recovered from the charging point.
Well, I think, yeah, because I think it's in the millions of pounds that the bid has gone in through the LEP to upgrade this car park, but it's obviously a privately owned car park. So I'm just wondering, how will the taxpayer see a return on that money?
It's a Homes England. It's a housing infrastructure funding bid for £9.8 million. The Great Oaks car park is Basildon Town Centre company. But all I can say is I'm not 100% clear what the question is, but what we'll do is we'll bring forward much more detail when we bring the full proposal forward. And at the moment we're still at the design stage, so we're at sort of stage 2 of the RIBA work. So there'll be much more detail that's forthcoming in due course. But Tomasz, by all means.
Yeah, so Tomasz, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say we've done a detailed business case, Councillor Mackenzie, regarding this, of which those elements will be drawn out, and as we advance it further, ultimately those points and questions will be addressed when we're in further discussions with BTCM and through the approval process with Homes England.
Thank you. Just also point out, it's another example, really, I think, of where the kind of two-tier system falls down, because clearly a council of our size, with the ambition of our size, we really should have a seat at the LEP to be able to be in control of some of this, rather than putting it in the hands of others to make local decisions. But that, I think, is part of the government's plans with the devolution white paper to introduce more combined authorities so that localised decision making on infrastructure is taken. Are there any other members who wish to ask any points of clarification or questions? Councillor Mackenzie, you want to come back?
Just answer the point I made about the 2 streets in Pitsea.
Yes, sorry, the bingo hall. Christine, you're indicating.
I mean, in terms of any redevelopment, Councillor Mackenzie, that would have to go through a proper formal pre-app approach, and we'd also be a pre-app with the Highway Authority as well. So your concerns about rat runs and how the roadwork sets out would be part of that consideration. And of course, at that point, because we are the landowners, there is a consultation with as landowners with the local community before it even comes to planning. So there'll be a pre-app process with the local authorities, the local planning authority, and the Highway Authority, and then the council as landowners would consult them with its residents, as they have to do under the localism legislation, for that public exhibition they have to do as part of that process.
Honestly, I'd just rather it is ruled out, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's a precedent that can be set at planning rather than here. Okay, do we have any other items from members? No, okay, thank you, Matt, for that run through, and to Caroline and the team for the work that they've done, particularly on Wickford site there. The next agenda item is a COVID update. Obviously, we have heard extensively from Jack about the impact in Langdon, and we've just had an update on all of those town centres. Unless any officer has anything else to add, or any member has any other questions, I think we've pretty much covered this agenda item. So no one is waving at me, which is a good sign. Oh, Tomasz is. Tomasz.
Just to say, just as a helpful note, more than anything else, colleagues and I have been attending and assisting on the high street retail assistance. We've got through the ED team, through the retail fund from government, additional support to lend assistance to that. And we've got that person in post now and has been in attendance with those discussions. So we'll be supporting the retailers on that front. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tomasz. And that's a very good point. So Patrick Cole back at the council now, and I think that's a hugely vital role to link the council with those high street retailers as well. So that is to our great benefit that role is there. And also, let's not forget that as we were discussing last night at PNR, the fact that Basildon is the #1 place in the whole of the UK for people returning to work is a testament to our businesses, and that is also true of our retailers, who've done a great job of getting people back safely to work, and to our environmental health team for the work that they've done over the last 15 weeks to make sure those businesses were in the best possible state that they could be to open their doors and get their staff back to work. So a big thanks to our high streets for that. Agenda item 9 is our work programme. Does anybody have anything that they wish to add to the work programme? No, in which case we are asked to consider and endorse it. Can I ask members to unmute themselves as we go around the table to vote on the endorsement of the work programme? Councillor Harrison.
In favour.
Councillor Burton-Sampson.
For.
Councillor Headley.
I'm afraid I didn't hear a word you said. You lost. Are you just asking for endorsement of the work plan? Is that the?
Yeah, it's just a vote on the endorsement of the work programme.
Okay, agreed.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
Yeah.
Councillor Mackenzie.
For.
Thank you, and I vote in favour as well. So thank you, members, for your attendance tonight. Our next meeting is the 9th of September. Thank you to officers as well for your attendance this evening, and to Democratic Services. Thank you all. See you all again after the summer.
Thank you.